Hello everyone, it's Ant here, I'm back. I have been talking about it a lot on my social medias and various platforms, but I've been finding it really hard to like post or be public in general recently. I think as people, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I feel like I have different phases of my life or like of my development. And I just think I've been through a lot of change in the past 2 years. I'm definitely trying to like reestablish who I am, where I fit into the community, where I fit into my own identity. So then like anything public or anything on socials has felt very like vulnerable. So I've been trying to like navigate that and just like take time for myself. And I've become sober this year and I'm just trying to like, get comfortable in who I am again before posting anything publicly. Today I wanted to film a little trans Q&A. Funnily enough, before I was on sex ed, I used to make like trans Q&As and trans healthcare information videos and stuff. So it feels really nice to be getting back to doing what I was doing years ago. And I wasn't even sure if anyone would be interested, but I put on a little box on my Instagram story and I got some really great questions. So I just wanted to come on and answer them today and post on various platforms if anyone was interested. I'm not gonna say any names or usernames purely for anonymity if anyone wants to sort of stay anonymous, because these questions are quite personal, so I thought that was best. I might have to close my window. The first question is how to find gender affirming clothing. I think that's a really interesting and like lovely question. I think the most important thing is to be in tune with what you're comfortable with and to learn the difference between what you feel comfortable in versus the fear of how other people see you. Like, are you uncomfortable because of how other people are viewing you, or if you're worried about being judged, or are you uncomfortable because it just feels wrong for you personally? Like, it can feel like a big step changing how you present in the world, even clothing wise. I think taking baby steps is really important. For me, I transitioned very slowly. Like, I just started purchasing more like oversized t-shirts, oversized jumpers, and then sort of swapping out skinny jeans for leggings, and then eventually tights, and then swapping that t-shirt for like a t-shirt dress, a pinafore dress, and then like slowly getting myself to a place where I felt good and I felt glam and I felt like myself, but also I didn't do it too fast that I felt really vulnerable at any point. And I think that was really important for me. I think using things like Pinterest for inspiration, TikTok for like styling can really help trying to restyle or find ways to wear your clothes that you already own. Give yourself that baby step without having to spend any money, or going to like things like charity shops or using Vinted to like just shop in the other gendered section and just experiment and like make the clothes your own. I think that's the most important thing. Making adjustments, tying things up in different ways, cutting them, wearing things that like aren't your size but feel a bit bigger, and then you're not committing to, you know, too much waste or too much fast fashion, because I don't really like purchasing any fast fashion. Also, there are some clothing brands that are hopefully affirming to you. Like, I know there are a lot of trans run brands, including Mask, which is like a masculine presenting clothing brand run by my friend Cole, and I'll link that down below if anyone's interested. But I think it's just about experimenting where you can, like even within your own wardrobe, and just taking baby steps and knowing that it takes time to feel comfortable. And there might be a day when you feel super comfortable. Like, I think I went quite into the girly clothing for a while, and now that's weirdly the things that make me feel uncomfortable, like knowing that it will go in a cycle and just not putting too much weight on it or too much importance into clothing, and knowing that the people in your life that are worth having will see you for who you are no matter what you're wearing. It's just about you being comfortable, that's it. Someone else says, do you take hormones? And I do. I have been on hormone replacement therapy for 4 years in June. I started in June 2020. I take estradiol sachets, so I take estrogen sachets, which I rub on my thighs in a gel form. And then I also have a testosterone blocker injection every 3 months, every 12 weeks. It's definitely changed my life for the better in terms of making me more comfortable, not just in how I present, but also in accepting my sexuality. And it's taken that initial feeling away of being like trapped or being on a timer, and that immense sort of growing fear that things are going to rapidly change. For trans women, some changes like voice changes or bone structure is irreversible on hormones, but it has made my skin softer and my hair growth has like dramatically slowed. Like, I don't really ever shave, and like I occasionally get like a few hairs here, but I don't think any more than like a cis woman. And of course I've got boobies. I won't bore any trans mass watching or any other gender diverse people who aren't interested in hormone therapy, but if you do want extra video about hormone therapy or you have any extra questions, then please let me know below. Now, I've had a few questions about what surgeries I've had, whether I've had surgery, if I want to have surgery. So I just wanted to address that just in case anyone was interested about my personal journey. Personally, I'm fortunate enough to be pleased with my breast growth, my breast tissue growth just from hormones. I've grown my boobies myself. Once taking estrogen, you do grow breast tissue, and I'm pretty happy with mine. So I'm not looking to get breast augmentation surgery anymore, but I was at one point when I didn't think that my breast tissue would grow the size that it has. Bottom surgery for me feels very inaccessible, and I think I'm the type of person that, like, if something feels like it's completely out of my range, I can kind of just like switch my brain off to it a bit. And I'm so aware that I have bottom dysphoria, but I haven't done the research. If it was accessible to me, I would get it, and I would definitely look into it, but I don't know the specific routes. I don't know what would be best for me and my body type. I don't know what would be realistic because I just haven't researched it because it feels so out of my reach right now. And that will be definitely something that I readdress at a later stage. And I have not had any facial surgery. I've just had lip filler, which was very affirming for me. I wanted it to look natural, which I think it does. It's literally just for me to find it easy to look in the mirror. Now, someone asked, how did I cope with transitioning emotionally? The person did say that they're all over the place in their own transition, and I would tend to agree. I think for me it's cyclical. Like, I'm always going in a sort of cycle where I really want to empower myself within my gender identity and feel proud of my community and what it means to be trans, while simultaneously upholding the things that make me unique and the nuance that comes along with being a person sort of above my gender identity, and like being able to like accept it whilst also not being confined by it. Like, I have times where I feel really empowered as a trans person and so proud of that label. Being in sex education definitely helped with that, knowing that I was like in this T for T relationship on a huge show representing trans women, and being able to like be a character at the forefront, but then also being a trans character like felt really important. And I was getting into my own first T for T, which is like trans for trans relationship with my boyfriend. I was just feeling super proud of what it meant to be trans, and I was like celebrating it a lot. But then I have other times, which I'm kind of more in this period at the moment, where then I feel sort of restricted and excluded from some things within the trans community. And I feel like embracing transness sometimes comes along with like these pressures of fitting in a box or being a certain thing, which I don't relate to, and I am very different. So I'm just trying to lead with who I am as a person outside of my gender identity, and not really put too much pressure on myself to transition at a certain rate or look a certain way or fulfill certain relationships, you know? I just want to love how I love and be who I am, basically. But I just always have to remind myself that I am human and unique, and I was worthy of love and respect even before transitioning. And there's so many parts of myself that existed then that still exist in me now. There's a lot that I can empower about myself that is very much outside of how I identify. Holding on to those things and my passions and my hobbies and my desires in life can lead me onto self-expression and acceptance in like a deeper way. Being all over the place sounds about right. Similarly, someone asked, do you feel there is an acceptance of trans people in society? I'm sure you've had a lot of trans people saying recently that it's a bad time to be trans, or it feels like we're going backwards. And in terms of policies and stuff, it does feel like that. Recently, it almost feels like Section 28 is returning. Section 28 was a policy that banned teachers or education settings talking about queerness in any kind of education setting. And there's been new guidelines recently that have basically said that no sex education should be taught to anyone younger than teenagers, and that there will be no discussion of gender identity or queerness or differing sexuality in schools. And that does feel like something that was written in the 70s. But personally, I don't believe we're going backwards. I think the more visible we are in society, in media, and the more accepted we are, the louder that the right wing have to be. And it all comes from hate within themselves. I feel like if people weren't scared of themselves and didn't fear their own identities, they wouldn't fear other people's. And I don't see trans hate as hating on trans people. I see trans hate as like a self-hate, and also a desire to uphold colonialism and the oppression that exists in society that upholds white supremacy. I would like to think that most day-to-day people, even if they're not educated on what it means to be trans, educated on our issues, definitely not. But I wouldn't say that because you're trans, people would hate you. The majority of people. The ones that do, like I say, are scared of themselves. And I truly believe that. I think people like Alok Menon, who do a lot of like advocacy for trans people, have always summarized it really well. And they were the person that sort of put me onto that, being like, happiness is resistance. It's sad we're living in fear of our own identities. Trans people are merely like a mirror for cis people who are scared of themselves and are scared of embracing joy. Just try to surround yourself with positive people who affirm your identity, and you don't need to prove who you are to anyone. Like, you literally don't need to prove your identity to anyone else but yourself. Someone else asked how to support or be an ally to trans people, which I think is a really important question. Allyship is so important for any minority or oppressed group. When your voice is stifled or manipulated or not given the same platform, it can be much harder to educate on the oppression that you're facing and then in turn make change. So education is like one of the most important things you can do as an ally. So literally you coming and putting that question in the box is so important. And I'm so proud of you for doing that. Like, I'm so grateful, because literally just like following people like me who make trans content sometimes, or other trans creators who are more educated and more well rehearsed in advocacy than I am, just follow people like that and really listen. If you do know any trans people, don't be afraid of saying the wrong thing, and don't let that fear create a distance between you. Just learn and actually listen. If you're unsure, actually ask how they feel most affirmed, whether that be through pronouns, things you can buy for them, ways that you can listen to them, or what they want you to ask about, talk about, just to make them feel most seen is really important. And knowing that every trans person is different, so that listening really can go a long way. And then using that education to then educate people who don't know trans people, because coming from you, it will be very different than coming from a trans person, especially if, you know, they're living in that place of like, trans people are very different from me. They can distance themselves from it. Having someone, you know, an ally to just like humanize us and educate in a really chill way to people that they know is so important. And it can stop people from going on to make trans people feel uncomfortable in their life. Also, I would say donating to things like mermaids or organisations that, you know, help support trans people, or preferably to trans people's fundraisers that you know or that you've seen online. Giving money to those kind of fundraisers is really, really important, and that's why I do my fundraiser Friday every week. But I know at the moment money is very tight and people that want to donate potentially can't. So I want to encourage you to still listen and educate yourself on oppressed minority groups' issues, and then use your voice to promote them, because those oppressed groups might not have the same opportunity to do that. So thank you. The next question is how to navigate dating, especially with fear of pregnancy and stigma around that, as someone that can get pregnant who isn't falling in the gender binary. For me, dating was really hard, being from rural Devon and not really knowing, and definitely not being surrounded by any queer people, let alone trans people. I think I tried to learn from my cis friends, you know, relationship advice, dating advice, but I just seemed to like have a different rule book and I didn't know how to navigate. So it was like very much trial and error. I think as a trans person, speaking from experience and a lot of my friends' experience, you have to kind of work through that phase of seeking validation, because I think I spent a lot of years not even questioning whether I liked someone or not. It was just okay, they're interested in me. Will they like me in spite of being trans? In spite. And that led to a lot of like unsafe situations or discomfort, and people like chasers who like kind of deliberately seek out trans people and then like fetishize them but don't necessarily actually respect us or see us as complex, deeper human beings or like worthy of actual emotional connection. But the thing is, I think it just takes time. When I was in that phase, I really don't think I was aware that that's what I was thinking. Like, I don't think I was sat there being like, oh, I'm doing this for validation. But I was sat there being like, this is the best I'm going to get, and really not believing that there was anything else. And I think if I'd had that belief that there are people out there that are worth dating, that will love me in a different way and that will actually want to respect me, even if it's just a casual thing, that will actually give me decent respect, I would never have put myself in so many situations. But it was because I literally believed that was all I was ever going to have access to. So I think just empowering yourself enough to go, I am deserving of respect, I am deserving of love, and I am deserving to feel comfortable no matter what kind of relationship I'm having. It takes time, it really does, to kind of believe that and act on that. And being patient is definitely underrated. Like, just know it will take time to find the right people in your life that make you feel affirmed, yet also you feel passion towards, and also you have a desire and attraction and deeper connection to them. It takes a long time to find people like that. Being patient is so key, and being kind to yourself in the process and knowing that you're worthy of it if you want it. Like, sexuality can change over the years, especially if hormones are part of your journey, hormone replacement therapy. Allow yourself to experience all different types of relationships, and you're inevitably going to feel hurt at times or unlovable, but good things will come, and believing that you're worthy of those is like the most key thing for when you start dating. Then when you do start to find partners, I think communication is key. Like, explicitly working out what you're comfortable with and also what they're comfortable with and what affirms them and what struggles they're having. It will just be the key to managing dysphoria in relationships. And even if it's literally purely casual, you have to make sure that there's a baseline respect between you. I know that it can feel invigorating or validating to be in unsafe situations or to be a pleaser, but I promise it will come back to haunt you. And I just really wish I'd had some self-respect, so then I didn't feel so guilty for implementing those boundaries and respect in later life with partners that do respect me. And then in terms of the pregnancy stigma, I believe that communication is also the key. Like, if I was dating someone who was afraid of getting pregnant or what that meant for them, the only thing I would want to know is how I could help ease them of that discomfort. Is there things I could go and buy if you don't feel comfortable buying them? Obviously, protection is key in all relationships, in all sexual relationships, but is there any specific care that I could help provide, you know, in order to support you? Is there different ways that we could experiment that like doesn't have those same concerns? Like, you just have to try and remove the stigma and know that if someone wouldn't be comfortable with you talking about that, then they shouldn't be comfortable enough to have sex with you. If you're not able to feel comfortable, then why should they? So just making sure that before you get into those situations, you know you would be able to implement those boundaries that you need to. That should come first. When you're with someone that you know you could definitely implement those boundaries, then do what the hell you want. But until you feel comfortable enough to implement your own boundaries, then I would say just take a step, take a breather. Now, the same person asked a different question that mentioned, as trans people, it often feels like we don't fit into gay culture within dating. You agree? That is a huge topic that I struggle with personally. I literally wrote a song called A Rock and a Hard Place in the past because that's literally where I feel stuck within community. Like, I do often feel like excluded from queer female narratives, but often obviously don't relate to like cis gay male narratives. Yet when I date cisgendered straight men or cisgendered men, I feel like there's so much education that needs to be done before we can develop any kind of romantic or like deeper connection. Like, I feel like I really have to prove how other people see me and that I'm a woman, and I have to like do so much to enforce boundaries. It can feel like so overwhelming just getting to like a casual stage, which I just don't have the energy for anymore. So I completely relate to that feeling of feeling like not straight, but like not able to relate to gay culture. However, I'm starting to see that that in itself is a blessing, because remember, boxes exist to restrict us. So when you don't exist within a box, within dating, for example, it means that we can just like pick and choose the bits that apply to us and the bits that affirm us and make us feel comfortable, and carry those with us instead of allowing ourselves to be boxed either by other people or trying to box ourselves to understand ourselves. We can just go, you know what, F that. Let me just experiment and find what I'm comfortable with. And I think that's like an elite sense of being. And remember, romantically or platonically, if you stay authentic to yourself and you just stick around the people that you like you can genuinely list the reasons that you want them in your life positively. I think if you surround yourself with those people and you continue to just be yourself, as cheesy as it sounds, then the people that are meant to stay and meant to find you will. And I think that's mostly important in romantic relationships. Not holding on because you think it's the best you're going to get, because you never ever know who's going to come around the corner. If I knew that I could have been with my boyfriend that I'm with now when I was younger, oh my god, I never would have done half the things I've done. I'm glad I have, because obviously it's made me who I am. But if I knew, it would have been so different. Like, I really just didn't think I would ever be this in love with someone and this safe around someone and this in admiration of someone and with someone who actually like actively inspires me just by existing and being himself, inspires me to be better. And I've learned so much since being with him. I think holding on to that and knowing that everyone will have that in a different form. Like, you could have a completely different sexuality in a few years' time. You just need to let it play out. And the only way that you can do that comfortably is by respecting yourself and respecting your boundaries. But I'm not saying it's easy. It's really hard, and I still struggle even now. Nothing is easy. Life isn't easy. So being comfortable and being proud of yourself and knowing what you're worth can never, ever be taken for granted. Like, that is so important. The next question is, what if you don't identify with your gender assigned at birth, but you don't feel trans? I think in a world so infringed with capitalism and dictated by black and white, we can often put pressure on ourselves to know our identity and know how we should present at a very early age. But there is no rush. No gender identity is irreversible. Yes, some biological changes might be irreversible, but they don't dictate your gender identity. So there is nothing permanent about using the pronouns or names or presenting in a way that you are comfortable. Like, so much identity, even for cis people, is about trial and error. Like, not all trans plus people understand how they wish to present straight away. The term non-binary can account for so much gender diversity. It's such a broad umbrella term to encompass so many gender identities that, like, there is no rush. Find the people that you trust and that you're comfortable with and start experimenting with them. That would be my main advice. Whether that be different pronouns that you want to try out or different names or allowing yourself to present differently with them. I think having like different groups that you can kind of try different things out and then learning and navigating what you're comfortable with and what affirms you and the fears that come up. Like, are you scared of what people will say if you use different pronouns? Are you scared of asking people to use different pronouns? Once you've done it, are you comfortable? Is it the pronouns you're uncomfortable with, or is it how you're presenting? Like, you'll only learn from trial and error and knowing that it's not permanent and knowing that people will understand, or wait until you find those people that do understand and won't see these things as big deals and they will just try and help you along the way. I think that'll be when you realize how to identify. I, for so long, was like saying I was androgynous because I was like terrified of the word trans, and I'd be like, well, I'm androgynous, like in school, and they'd be like, is that a gender? Like, what does that mean? And I didn't know. But it was a term that I'd found that I felt described what I was feeling, presenting at that time when I was 17. And it helped me kind of relieve myself of boxes and stereotypes and, you know, start to pick up the things that did affirm me clothing wise and pronoun wise without having to commit to an identity that had so much stigma around it. So, you know, just take time. Gender identity has become so policed as like a byproduct of colonialism and westernized colonialism and like white supremacy, and being able to step outside of that is empowerment, and happiness is resistance. So just purely existing in a state where you're comfortable is so underrated and inspiring, and I'm really proud of you because that could be a big first step for you, asking that question in my questions box. So I just want to say thank you for letting me be part of your journey, and hopefully this advice helps you when you find it. To finish off, I just want to say to everyone, stay safe and try to surround yourself with people who see you, because I see you, people see you, whether that just be in my comment section. My live streams on TikTok are amazing. People come out and we start, you know, experimenting with people's pronouns for the first time, or, you know, allowing them to use different names that they wanted to since they were young, and knowing that people will see you even if you're not out right now publicly. It doesn't mean that other people won't see you how you wish to be seen. I'll see you however you tell me how you want to be seen. I'll see you as it, and many other people will agree with me and think the same as me. Also, there are other communities available through organizations like Spectra, Mermaids, or Gendered Intelligence. So I will try and leave some links below to support groups or to professionals if you are looking for any more advice and you're going through a really hard patch right now, because I understand and I wish I could do more. I really do, or give more advice, but you're doing really well and you're here. Thank you for being here, because your life is so worthwhile. And even if you think no one would care or no one would see you, people do. And I've seen many things that have affected me, and many people lost, and many trans kids lost, that have really stuck with me. And the people that come to me even when they're struggling, but they stay alive and they stay hopeful, you inspire me literally every day just to stay alive and just to keep fighting and keep pushing when I can really struggle with that myself. So thank you. Now, if you do have any more questions related to trans stuff or related to me, then please leave them below, and I'll probably do another question box on my Instagram stories soon if anyone does have any other gender questions. science or any other specific videos like hormones or about surgeries or about school advice with how to come out to parents, whatever it may be, I'd love to be able to help. I used to do a lot of trans advocacy and talking in schools, and it's really nice to like express this side of me again and find passion for this side of my identity again. It's really, really empowering for me. So thank you for allowing that on my platforms. I'm gonna go and edit this now, and I love you loads and thank you for watching. If you got to the end, A star.